Hello, veterinary friends. Welcome to the Veterinary Life Coach Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest for you. Her name is Jaclyn Strominger. Say it for me, Jaclyn. Strominger. She told me right before we started, and I for some reason, I can't get it. Jaclyn is the founder and CEO of Leap to Your Success. She's a high achiever success coach dedicated to propelling ambitious individuals to peak performance in both business and life. And that's what we all need as busy veterinarians. Welcome to the podcast, Jaclyn.
Oh, thank you for having me, Julie. It's so great to be on and talk as I'm sitting here petting my dog.
Oh, that's great. We love dog lovers on this podcast. My dogs are always in the room with me, so everybody knows that the dogs are here. Well, I'm really excited to have you here. I love business. I love leadership, all those things. So I'm excited for you to talk about business and entrepreneurship and all the things. And thanks for helping with that last name. I don't know why. I'm going to try again at the end and we'll see if I get it right.
Okay.
So the first question I always ask all my guests is to tell me their story. And basically what I mean by that is how you got to where you are today.
There's a lot there, and but I'll share the part that I think that for me was the biggest. I have two really big aha moments that kind of helped me kind of craft the person who I am today and why I jumped into this business. So first is I had a great, amazing career. I got out of college and I was one of those people who knew exactly what they wanted to do. I did a bunch of internships, and one of the internships led me to, I'm like, I want to do that. And I got into magazine publishing. And fast forward, I get married, I have kids, and I was at this one company. And mind you, this is where my second child had pretty much was maybe about 10 months old. And I was talking with a group of other ladies at the company, and one of the girls said to the other girl, hey, you know what? That's probably not great for your career. And it was like this wave of like smacking me in the head. And it was like, oh my God, career. I had stopped thinking about my career. It had become a job. And there's a very big difference between job and career.
Right.
And I remember going home and thinking, I got to make some changes. I have to really start evaluating, what do I want? And what am I doing? I've got two kids, and what did I dream? Like, when I was younger, I had a different dream. I had a different vision of what my life was going to be like. And it wasn't what it was right now.
Right.
And so I started making shifts. And then fast forward again for a couple of years later, I was having my own business, and it was pretty successful, but I'm driving my kids to school. And again, another aha moment. And we're listening to Katy Perry's song Roar in this. And I used to
That's
be
a good song.
Right. It's a really great song. And I love it. It's like one of the songs. I have a couple of different songs that wake me up in the morning, and that's one of them.
Right.
But again, I had this huge like feeling of like, again, what am I doing? Like we were living in Boston. And if you know Boston traffic, it stinks.
Yes.
Right. So
my daughter lived there for a few years going to school. So I was there a little bit.
right. So my husband is a physician. And every year it was 5 minutes earlier to get into Boston, to beat the traffic. And then it's getting home. And we were doing this, like we were crisscrossing. My business, I did a lot of evening events and things like that. So we were barely seeing each other. And I just was like, again, not the life I envisioned. And I just went home that day and I started writing out everything I wanted again. And I was like, okay, now we're going deeper. And we came home and I said, we have to make this change. And then it's create the inspiration, be the driver of that. And fast forward, that was March of 2018. By April, we had sold a house, moved across the country to Reno, Nevada. My husband had found a new position. I can go anywhere. And we started started a whole new life. And not that we needed to start a new life. It was more wanted to find a place where we could actually live versus exist. And that's what was that's what was happening. And I loved, I mean, my business was growing. I was, and I got to Reno and I thought to myself, I'm in a oh shit mode because I
Right.
don't know anybody. And my business was about people, and I
People.
needed to know people. I needed to connect with people. So we got here literally, I'm going to say I think it was like August 8th is when the trucks actually moved away or whatever, or actually they rolled in, and I'll never forget. It was that Friday. The guys are still unpacking. I go to take a shower. I have no hot water. I don't care. I'm going to figure out, I'm going to get myself dressed. I mean, I took like the nanosecond shower, put my
Right.
hair back, and I went to a networking event. And I started right then and there. Like I had to start building and start meeting people and start crafting. And it was, and it was this change and that, that helped me really be where I am now. And again, then fast forward, the company that I was working with saw lots of changes that they were going through. And I said, no, I am done. Line in the sand. I'm doing my own business. Like I am the entrepreneur. And I became a coach, like full time. I mean, it was like one of those things, like, this is what I want to do. I love helping people. I love helping people succeed. And and you don't look back and you just keep going forward.
Yeah. And that's why coaching is so fun, right? Because you get to help a lot of people. Yeah.
You get to help people. And more than anything, I love doing, like, my business was, a lot of it was around sales, but a lot of it also was around really defining, what my team members wanted in their vision and their mission. And even when I was in corporate, you know, um, it was one of those things that I wish had happened. Like I remember, my one of the companies that I worked for, I was in magazines. I never saw the CEO. We never knew what his passion was or what his vision mission was for the overall company. I knew the magazines that I worked on. I knew what we wanted to do, but I had no idea what the overall arching vision and mission of the overall company was. And we never talked about that as, the publisher never came in and said, hey, what's your vision and mission? This is my
Right.
vision and mission. So when I became an entrepreneur, I actually went and I've had a bunch of different of my own companies, and I always defined my vision and mission. And even when I was bringing on or working with a client, I would say, always tell them, this is my vision and mission. This is my vision, and that vision is going to parlay to you. I had a
Right.
recruiting company for a bit, and I told my clients, my vision is to make sure that when you get into that next company, that not only are you happy, but that you love it, that you found a home. It shouldn't be, as I want you to have the career, not the job.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's helping them people find that. And then as I was, as my different roles, when I'm working with teams, it's like, what's the mission of our team? What do we want to do? I ran, I wanted each and every one of my team members to know that no matter what, I had their back. And I wanted to know why they were in the business, what were they going to do, what were their goals, and not just their goal for the year, but I wanted to know, like, what's your family goal? Like, where do you see you and your husband? Where do you see yourselves? Where do you see you and your kids? And you have to know, like, to me, that is one of the biggest things that you need to know about your people, because that's going to inspire your people. When you get to know them, you may have a vet, you may be running, like, let's say you've got a team of 5 vets and everybody has strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
And so if you can know what those passions are and their strengths and weaknesses are, then you can put people in the right places within your team and have
Right.
them take on responsibilities. And you might say, oh, I might say, Julie, you're great at, communication, but maybe, you need, do you want to work on some of, like, what's a skill you want to work on? Is that something that you want to build up? You have to ask those questions too
Right.
and get
Yeah.
to know people.
Yeah. So if you're, I'm sure people that are listening to this podcast, there are some business owners, there are some people that want to be entrepreneurs and are not yet there, or they're in a position where they have a boss. What advice would you give to them to either have their vision and mission in their job or actually move into those positions of leadership?
So first, if you are working with somebody or if you're in a corporate and so I would say, number one, start with what your personal vision and mission is. Like, find and really write out your own personal vision and mission. And actually, if you go to my website, leaptoyoursuccess.com, I have a booklet that you can actually get. It's actually a vision and mission and helps you
It
write it,
helps you kind of write it.
helps you kind of craft
Because
it and write.
that's always an interesting concept. I've done that a bunch of times with my own business, and it's always an interesting concept to try to figure out. Like vision, I think makes more sense to me than mission, and but then sometimes they overlap in some way, and sometimes it's hard to dissect out which is which.
Well, the vision is really what you see, and then the mission is how you're going to actually see
How you're
that
going to
vision,
get there.
how you're going to get there, and
Yeah,
then you create goals that are aligned with that mission, so that you can see your vision come to fruition. It kind of
yeah,
is those
kind
three
of
things.
feeds back to itself.
Yeah. So I would say first and foremost, know what yours is, and then I would if take the leap and ask your boss or the CEO or wherever you're working and say, I'm curious. I really want to, if you want to grow in that company, say, this is where I want to go. I want to know where, this is where I see myself. And I want to know, like, ask your boss, like, what's the vision and mission for you? I want to make sure I'm aligned with that. Be proactive about it,
Right. And how to get there.
how to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
if
know as a business leader, if my employees came to me and said that they had higher goals or they wanted to do something more with their life or whatever, I was very supportive of that because that's kind of how I'm built is I like to keep taking steps. So how do you get over the fear of putting that out there then to your boss? If you have a boss and you're not sure that they're gonna like that approach. Just take the chance anyway, or
I, this is the biggest, I think one of the hardest things to do and it's almost like asking for constructive criticism, right? But,
sure, like you
you
don't
know,
really want to hear it, but
but you want to hear it, right?
right,
It's, it's, it's your life. And you have to remember it's your life. It's your career. And a great leader is somebody who is going to see the best in somebody else and help them get there.
sure,
A great leader wants to know what their team wants to do and where they want to go so that they can help them rise up. If, and I will, and I, this is a hard thing to, you know, if you are the leader and you are the CEO, remember, it's better to have people, it's like the Dale Carnegie used to say, better to have people that are smarter than you to help them rise up because you want to help them rise up and train people to take your position so that you can move up yourself. And if
right,
and if you can help somebody achieve a goal, they will always be grateful. And we have to come from that place of not scarcity, but of abundance, right? So
right,
we can't be afraid of the people um, that are working for us taking our spots. We want them to.
right,
We want them to
right,
take our spot so that we can grow up and go
right,
up.
yeah,
So, and if you're the person who speaks to your leader and that leader poo-poos you and doesn't want to do that or doesn't want to be or is maybe has imposter syndrome or is like
mhm.
feels negative
Yeah,
about that.
because not all leaders are good leaders, right?
Well, that very true, right? So, so that's a telltale sign that maybe that is not the right place for you. And it's hard. I want to say it's really hard. Like this is also something that like, I wish somebody had told me this when I got my first position at a company, because I probably would have walked away because I had a really horrible leader. I hate the word
Mhm.
manager. I hate that word.
I did the same thing. I had a really bad boss my very first veterinary job, and I eventually got fired because I kept trying to fix him, and he didn't like it. He didn't like my advice.
Yeah,
But yeah, if you were smart, you would leave, right? Like I wasn't
right.
smart.
I lasted I think 2 years, maybe a
Hmm.
year, and then I left and I found
Yeah,
another, and I went to another company. But it, we really have to know where we want to go and always be looking at that. It's not something that we write down and then close the book. And it's the same thing for
right,
a company. When we start our companies, there's a few key things that have to go in. We have, our vision and our mission. We have our values. What are those core values that we have personally, and what are the values that we want the company to embody? And that as we're bringing people in, we have to find ways to ask people the hard questions to see if they fit within our values, because you can't change values of people. Unfortunately, you can try really, really hard, but you can't. And so if they don't fit with if they might be a great worker, but if the values aren't there, then it's not the fit. And that's one of the hardest things about bringing people on. It's you can train anybody to do any job or any task, but you
right.
cannot change. You can't train values, character. That's
Yeah, you can't change. Yeah, you can't change their basic
right.
way of
Unless
looking at the world, I guess.
right, unless that is something that they truly want to do themselves, and that they've seen and they've seen something
Yeah,
within themselves that they want to change, but you
right,
can't change it.
right.
And that's something, I read this once and I just thought this was like one of the best questions or best actions to do if you're looking to interview somebody, and you're trying to figure out a value that is important. One of the things that I like is people being able to ask weird questions, or like uncomfortable questions. And so if you're doing an interview, and you offer somebody, if I hand you this glass of and say, would you like a glass of water? And you take it. And I'm, at the end of the interview, I'm going to say, all right, thank you very much, Julie. And if you said to me, okay, thank you so much. It was great interviewing here. I love this company. Let me ask you, what do I do with my cup? Where would you like me to, what would you like? Do you leave the cup on the table? Do you ask me what to do with it? If you
Right.
leave it there, I'm probably not going to hire you, because,
Well, yeah, because you want someone to take initiative, right?
right, I want somebody to take initiative. I don't want
Right.
somebody to just leave the cup on the table, because you wouldn't do that. And you wouldn't, if you did that in my house, I would think, that's not very nice of her. Why is she
Yeah,
like, help clean up,
right.
like push your chair
Yeah.
in,
So
right?
is that something that you recommend people do in interviews, is try to kind of um ask questions to get an idea of the person's values and the way they're wired?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and there's a lot of different questions or things that you could do. But I
sure.
like that one personally, only because it kind of shows, whether somebody wants to ask, create initiative, are they open to asking questions, or standing up and sticking up or being something like in an uncomfortable situation. It's kind of
Right,
uncomfortable to ask, like, what do I do with this cup now that I've had this
right,
cup,
right.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so it's like, but there's lots of them, and lots of little things that you could ask. But if values is really important to really figure out, and you could even flat out ask people. So, if you were to tell me, what are your top five, what are the top five values? Or here's a list. What if you think of your top five, you know, values off of this list?
right.
Circle them for me.
Yeah,
There's lots of different ways that you could come about that. But I think it's so important to know. And the other key thing of why that's so important is that when you have a team that's working together, and they're all, the values are pretty much aligned together, there's a cohesive team that people, and a synergy that's created. And it's like creating this amazing family that works great together, a good family, not, I mean, you're always going to have fighting, right?
There's always a little dysfunction in
Right.
every family,
Right.
right?
And everybody, but,
In
but
probably
it's
every business too,
yeah,
but if you
yeah,
if you can help it, you want it to be
yes,
a functional family.
right. Yes. You want it to be functional
Right.
and because it's going to help with, you know, all aspects of the business. You'll see greater
Right.
things happen when um you'll see a lot of great things happen when you've got that team together.
Right. Right. So if someone is feeling stuck where they are, because that's a lot of what we deal with when I
Yep.
coach people, they're feeling stuck in either the job that they have or they've graduated from vet school, they've been working for a while, and then they're like, okay, I don't have any other like dreams. How do you get those people? Like, talk about how we coach them to try to decide where they want to go and if they want to leave or if they want to be an entrepreneur and, those kind of things. The stuck
So,
thing.
if somebody is stuck, one of the biggest things I like having them write out, you know, where do they feel stuck? Like, where is it coming from?
Right.
I love doing um, the wheel of life, and having people look at
Yes.
the different parts of their life,
Yeah,
where they
I've done
are,
that before.
right? And having them rate those. And then I really want people to, I love it when people sit there and think, okay, I want you to, sit and close your eyes and and really think about if you are looking at yourself right now, from that higher level up here and you're looking down, and this is 10 years from now, what does that look like to you? Like, how do you really want your life to look like? What do you think is right in your career? And I want people to kind of figure, like, really it's hard. And then we start out, like, what does it look like? What's the, we can go down to the material things first. And it's like, what's the house that
Yeah,
you
what do
want?
you want to have? Where
Yeah.
do you want to
Like,
live? Yeah.
go to the material things, and then it's like, and what type of impact do you want to be making? What impact do you want to have? Do you have a family? What do you want your kids to do? Like, how do you want them to be feeling? And really kind of hone in. And then, where are you right now? Like, what are you doing? What do you love about what you do? And what do you not love about what you do? And
Yeah,
if you
I
could
love
do,
that exercise.
you know, and if there's anything that you could do, and like, pie's the sky, right? Like if there's anything, forget about whether you've got the credentials or not, whatever.
Right.
Just if you could do anything, what would it be?
Yeah.
You
I
know,
think so many of us don't do that.
no,
Especially, once you get into your career and you start working, you just are like day by day trying to survive. And I think it's so important to think about where do you want to be in a year? Where do you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or whatever? And just start to kind of make that plan. And it doesn't mean that you're going to end up exactly there, but at least there's a direction then, which
yeah.
otherwise you're just kind of meandering and hoping that, your life turns out the way you want it to, which is, what a lot of us do. That's what I did when I was younger. I mean, I really knew I wanted to be a vet and I really knew I wanted to own a practice. But once I got there, I wanted to have a family. Once I got there, I was like, okay, I'm here, but you still
Now
have a
what?
lot of life to live. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's and I would say I had that same thing as well. And which is why I love coaching, because, and helping people with their businesses and helping them get, like, it takes two things. Like I was saying, it's two steps to, like, get
Yeah. Tell me about that. You told me that
it's,
before we got on here.
you
So
know,
about those two steps.
it's like, in order to create momentum in your life, one step, you're teetering. You're standing on the, you can, unless you've got really amazing balance and you're a great yogi, but even then you're standing. The momentum starts by taking the second step. If you only take one step, you're not going anywhere. It's
Right.
momentum is two. So that
Right.
first step is, okay, I'm going to figure out what that vision is. Second step is my mission. Okay, now I got that. Now I'm going to take action. I'm going to really figure out how I'm going to put things into place. Like, what are the steps? What are the two steps I can do today to start that. So it might be, I want to, it could be like researching a certification.
Mhm.
It could be then like picking up the phone and finding out somebody who's talking to somebody who's in that position. It's 2 steps, right?
Yes.
And then if you're in, if you're in sales, you know, we always say if you call somebody once, don't call at all. Because it doesn't, one call, you have to do at least 2 things,
Right.
and at the, call them, send them an email. And then 2 days later, do it again. It's creating that momentum. And it's
Right.
the same thing with our life and what we're doing. We always have to think about, you know, what are the 2 things I can do today that are going to move me closer to that vision and mission that I've set out. And I always need to look at that at the beginning of the week. What are the 2 things I need to focus on? What are the 2 things I need to focus on today? What are the 2 things I'm focusing on, in this month? Because it's all ties back to that
Right.
bigger picture.
Well, and I like the two things because it's not overwhelming.
It's simple.
Because we all have these to-do lists. I do the same thing. I have like 100 things on it. And if there's 100 things on my to-do list, I'm not going to do anything because I'm overwhelmed. So I love that you say just do 2 things today, 2 things today.
Yeah.
And you'll be shocked by the end of the week how much you actually accomplish, right?
Right. And you know, it's if I know, when we think about this, if I know that I can be working towards something and I just need to do 2 things, it takes away like the stack, it
Mhm.
takes away the overwhelm, and it takes away anxiety of it. So I know I'm just focusing on 2 things. And then, it's, and what we were just saying is that so many times we don't focus and look at that vision and our mission. We start getting into this, you know,
Just trying
as
to
a,
keep your head above water.
right. And you get into the routine and you forget. So if we can put it in the top of our heads to say, okay, what are those 2 things? Right from the get-go, from your first career, that first job, like, I don't want to forget about what my vision is. And
Right.
so, and I did that. Like, I got into my first, I remember, I remember, had an internship at the Magazine Publishers Association, and I worked at the New York Times Company over the summer. And I went back to college, and I was like, I'm going to make sure I get a job in magazine publishing and circulation and consumer marketing. And of course, I did. I set my foot down. I'm like, I'm going to make sure I'm in there. I love
Right.
this. And then I forgot what I wanted my mission to be.
Yeah. You kind of stop dreaming almost.
I got my dream. I got into the career that I wanted. And then it was almost like I was waiting for somebody else to take me under their wing and say, this is where you're going to go. And
Right.
I had this weird thing in my brain that I was going into this company and they were going to help my trajectory. And this is where, and why I always think everybody needs to know where they want to go, because your
Right.
life is your life. It's your journey, your company, your mission. You're the one that's making that path. You can have a board of advisors, you can have people that are supporting you, but it's ultimately you're the one that is creating the trajectory of your life and where you want to go. And that's why you always have to kind of keep that in mind as to where do I want to go. And so, life is not linear. It's not like we're always going this way. We always know that there's ebbs and flows in life, whether
Right.
you're in a company, whether you're the entrepreneur, there's ups and downs. But we always know that, if you're here, to get back up, you've got to take a step and you got to learn something. And then you'll learn something, and then you're going to get to a point where you're going to drop down because I'm going to have to learn something else. And you're
Right.
doing this,
And
but
that's normal. That's not like, I think sometimes people, when they have some failures or their business is struggling, like I was telling someone the other day how I had my business in 2008. and how hard that was and to get through it, but I got through it. And so we think it's going to be easy, but it isn't. It's like people are going to quit. You're going to want to change jobs, like you're going to have those ups and downs, and that's how it's supposed to be.
Right. That's life.
Hmm.
That's life. And it's all about, it's like learning, and it's the journey, and it's a ride, right? And
Right.
so we, and it's, it's understanding that all of those things, we have to remember they're meant for us to learn and to be better.
Right. Yeah, all those mistakes, all
Yeah.
those things that happen to us, all the failures, so to speak, even though I don't love that word, but
Yeah. And I always like to say it's not necessarily, they're not failures, they're lessons.
yep,
They're
exactly.
they're learning lessons,
Yeah.
it's the lesson that you learn, if um, if your company was, if your company is struggling, okay, well, what do I need to do to turn it around? It's a lesson.
Mhm.
It's not a failure. And it's not like you haven't done anything right. So many times it could be like a small tweak that we need to do, to change something. And there's, there's lots of different ways that we can skin and learn those things. But what I always like to say, whatever is going on in your business, go back to why you started it, go back to what you want to do, and then look at what you are doing, because we can't be everything to everybody. So
Right.
sometimes we have to actually trim down for us to go forward.
Right. Right. And sometimes you just have to be creative or you have to be humble.
Yep.
I know when my hospital was struggling at one point, I just went to all the employees and I said, "Look, we're struggling right now because the economy's in the dumper and people aren't coming in like they used to. So we have to problem solve. We either have to lay people off or we have to cut back on benefits or we have to cut some hours. What do you guys all want to do?" And they were like, "Well, we don't want anyone to get fired, so let's cut our hours." And I was like, "Okay, then that's what we're going to do. And then when we get through it, when it starts to improve, we'll get the hours back, but I don't want to lose any of you either." So I think just being open to the ideas and also what you said about keeping focused on your mission and vision helps you with the tenacity,
Yep.
because sometimes you have to be really tenacious in business
Yeah.
because, some days you just feel like you can't win.
Yeah. And what you did, I think that's also really key, is that sharing, if your business is in a point of struggle, if you rally your troops, you'll be amazed as to what they can do.
They come up with good ideas, don't they?
Right. They come up with great ideas,
Mhm.
and to think of the people in your company as your team members. They're your partners.
Right,
They're, and if you can think, okay, guys, this is where we are, right? This is where we are right now. This is
right.
where we want to go. How can we all work together to get to here?
To get
And
there.
right. And they will love that because they're going to feel part of that. And instead of feeling like, oh shoot, what's going on? I can see the company's struggling, instead, like,
And they don't know because nobody's telling them. Yeah,
right. Well, embrace, like, let people know. This is actually a key thing, which is being able to communicate what is going on, not to scare people, but to rally people, to get people saying, "Hey guys, if we work together, this is where we want to go. What can each of us do?" Maybe it's going out into the community and going to go out to dog parks and pass out flyers.
right.
Maybe it's, having a booth at a local farmer's market, you know, or bring your
Introduce
dog.
yourself to the community. Yeah,
Right. Like, how can
right,
we as a team get us into the community to grow our business?
right, right. And the honesty, if you're honest with your employees, that will always serve you because they want that. They want to help the business, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. And
So,
giving people a vested, and giving people, some skin in it. Like, hey, you know what, if we bring, you know there's a huge part of, if we, let's take 5-star reviews, if we get 5-star reviews as a company or as a team, we're going to do this. Or, if we get, X Yelp reviews or whatever it is, right? I mean, there's some ways that you can put some skin in the game for people to say, okay, guess what? We are celebrating. We got like 20 reviews that are awesome. Yay.
Right. So let's do something fun then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Celebrate those things. And
Yeah.
then if you get something that's not a great review or something, then it's like, okay, what can we do to make this better? And making sure that we respond to that person who didn't have a great experience.
Right. Yeah, and try to understand why, not just say that person was an idiot or that
Right.
person was mean. And some people are mean and there's nothing you can do, but a lot of times it's just understanding where they're coming from. If you can figure that out and make that better,
Yeah.
sometimes you can get some of those bad reviews taken down.
Right.
So,
Oh, yes.
so what have I not asked you that I probably should?
I think from a business standpoint, I would say the one question is, how do we keep that fire going?
Okay. Yeah. So in yourself as the
Yeah.
entrepreneur or the leader. Okay. So
Yeah.
whether you're an entrepreneur or a business owner or just trying to lead a team, if you're a doctor or a technician.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me that. How do you do that?
So, and I actually think, I mean, again, we talked about vision and mission, but at the same time, it's what's really interesting, I think, is that when we have those moments of doubt, because they will be there,
Yes.
you know, yes, go back and look at your vision and mission and really have a mantra that you can say to yourself. But I also really think it's incredibly important to have some key people around you that you can rely on to be support.
Yeah.
You are, we have to remember that everybody has highs and lows, and that we sometimes need, if you have an accountability partner or somebody that you can connect with, that is really important, because that person or those people will help you when you're having that disbelief, or that
Self-doubt,
or that
imposter
vision is,
syndrome. Yeah.
yeah, or you feel that vision fading. you
Right.
know it's really,
When you're struggling.
have that person that maybe that you set somebody to say, okay, every Friday we're going to have a call and just check in, and what am I going to be held accountable to? And
Right.
that you can also say to them, hey, it's been a really bad week, and I'm kind of like, be open and honest,
Mm-hmm.
and not just be like everything's all rosy. You don't want it to be like a bitch session, trust me.
Right.
But
Right.
but you really, having that, either one person or a couple of people that you can get together with, whether it's once a week or once a month, that is your cohort to connect with, to be accountable to help you when you're feeling that.
Yeah, and that's what coaches can do for you, a business coach or a life
Mhm.
coach. But also, if you have a really good friend or another veterinarian or somebody that's in the same boat as you are, as long as the two of you have agreed that we're moving forward and pushing ourselves up, we're
Yeah.
not bringing each other down. I
Right.
think, that's super important. If you have a
Yeah.
group of other hospital owners that you can get together with, or even just one other one, um, to kind of help you just understand what you're going through, but also keep you from getting into a pity party
Yeah. Right.
about your life or your business, right?
Right. Right. That's why I said we don't want it to be like a bitch session or anything like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
It's where and again, coaches are great. I love being a coach to help people through those tough
Mhm. Yeah, it's
times.
fun, right?
It's really great. But even, like, I I tell my clients, find an accountability partner.
Yes.
Somebody that you both have you both have goals, and you're holding each other accountable.
Right. Right. And honestly,
Yeah.
like if you're struggling, somebody that will actually be honest with you and say, well, here's what I think you could do differently, or here's why I think you're feeling so down, or yeah, you really do need someone like that. I was fortunate in my area, and I've told the story a couple times before on the podcast, I think, but we had a group of hospital owners that would get together once a month. And it was amazing. Like I learned so much from these people because they were all in different stages of business. We all were all veterinarians and we all owned veterinary hospitals and just getting together and kind of talking about issues and I have this problem. What would you do about that? It's really powerful.
Mhm.
So I usually tell people that I'm coaching, if they have a business to try to find at least one person
Yeah.
that you can meet with and do that with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really important, and I find, in different times of my career when I've had that a person that I'm accountable to, it's
Right.
amazing how much more I get done,
Oh, sure.
right? And it's
Right.
amazing. It's so I don't know, it's great.
It's unusual though, because you'd think that if you promised yourself something that you'd be likely to do it, but it's so untrue, right? You'll
Right.
always cheat yourself. If
Right.
someone else asks you to do something, you'll always do it, right? And you'll
Right.
show up. But if you
Right.
want to do something, you always kind of fail on yourself. So
You know,
yeah, it's super important for any goal, really.
it's like going to the gym, right? I mean,
Sure.
I'm a person like, I hold myself accountable. I'm a little bit of a nut. Like I will never not work out or do something
Right.
in the morning, even if it's for
Yeah.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, but if you are somebody who's starting a regimen or you're trying to change something, it's
Right.
better to, have an accountability partner or someone that you're going to go meet, whether it's a
Mhm.
running partner, oh, I'll meet you at the gym. Because if you know
Right.
you're going to meet somebody there, you're not going to back down.
You have to show up.
You got to show up. Right.
Right. Even if you don't feel like it, right?
Yeah. You got to show up. Right.
I
Yeah.
love
Trust
that.
me. Oh,
I know. I hear you. I have the same thing. So if you can, just promise someone that you'll show up. Yeah, that's
yeah.
going to help a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that's another reason if you're a leader in a hospital, or if you're in any position of leadership, is to communicate with your team. Because I would say that to some of my technicians. I'm like, I'm really trying to do this today. Can you tell me if I don't? Can you tell
Right.
me if I'm procrastinating? Can you tell me if I'm not writing up my records like I should? Can you tell me if I'm getting distracted? Because I was easily distracted.
Yeah.
And it's not fun when they call you out, but it does help because then you're less likely to do it because you've asked
Yeah.
for that feedback.
Yeah, and it's funny you're talking about distraction. I think that's actually a really big thing too that I really love to. We all have squirrel syndrome,
Oh,
right?
I
Or
do for
shiny
sure.
object, right?
Right.
You know, so having something, whether you're telling your team like this is what I want to do and to communicate that,
Right.
it's so key. I
Yeah.
actually have a sheet, so if anybody wants it, I'm always happy to share it. It's a simple hourly tracker for what you are doing
Yeah.
every hour and to create awareness because we all think that what we're doing, we're
We're
like,
busy, right?
right? But are you working on the right things? It goes back to those two steps. Am I working on the two things that I really need to work on?
Right.
Or how many times am I picking up my phone? By the way, your phone will tell you how many times you're picking up your phone. But
Right.
but how many times am I looking at the phone? Or how many times am I actually going into email? Like if
Right.
it's like tracking your the food that you eat or the
Mhm.
amount of like if you have to track everything that you put in your mouth, trust me, you're not going to put things in your mouth because it's going to be
Right.
like, oh, I got to write it down. Again, you know, or
Right.
spending, right? I got to
Yeah.
track my spending. Oh, anytime I take out my credit card or I take the cash out of my pocket, I got to write it down in a book. Um, it'll stop. It really does make you stop because you're like, oh, I don't want to take up my pen. Like, but
Yeah.
you have to be
It
true to
gets the
yourself.
accountability going
Right.
for you, right? Yeah.
And it creates awareness. The biggest thing is creating the awareness as to where things are going or what you're doing,
Right.
if it's and what you're
Where
working
you're
on,
actually spending your time.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What
That's
are those
eye-opening.
things? It's very I always say do it for a week. You will
Hmm.
be surprised.
Yeah. You'll be shocked how much time you waste, right? I do it
Oh my
all the
God.
time.
And I do it, and I caught myself the other day. I turn off the notifications on my phone because my phone kept going ding ding ding, and I'm like, and it totally distracts you.
Right.
So I have
Even if you don't pick it up, it's distracting, right?
right. Yeah.
Because you know
So
something's there, but you
yeah.
don't know what it is.
So I have a tendency now. I put my phone on do not disturb, and I put my phone. I'm sitting at my desk. I'll put my phone in the drawer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm like,
Sometimes I just leave. When I was working, I left my phone in my purse on my desk. So it wasn't anywhere near me. And I
yeah,
hated having my phone on me because for that reason, because it's so distracting.
yeah,
So I know we're going to run out of time here pretty soon
yeah,
because you have another
yeah,
thing to do, but can you tell people where to find you if they
yeah,
want to learn more? You can always come back. I always invite my guests back to the podcast if they want to come back and talk about more stuff, but
yeah.
tell people where to find you.
So you can find me at my website, leaptoyoursuccess.com. It's leaptoyoursuccess. There's no numbers in there, but it's leaptoyoursuccess.com. And you can find me there. You can find me on all the socials. But if you go to my website, go there, you can connect with me, and you can download. There's a few different publications. I have a vision and a mission. I have an unstoppable journal. I have, if you're looking for sales, I've got a whole sales book,
Oh yeah, because
networking.
that's something we kind of have to do as veterinarians. We're definitely in sales, even though we don't like it.
Yeah. So I can help with sales. Is that something that you're curious about? Or even if it's networking? I'm a huge, big networker. I love networking. So I've got some publications on networking. So
Awesome.
how to do that. So go there,
Awesome.
grab some of those, and connect with me on my website.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It's been super fun learning about you and what you do. And let me try your last name again. Jaclyn Strominger.
Yes, you did it.
Did I get it right? Oh,
You got it
yay.
right. Yes. Thank you,
Yay. I
Julie.
can be taught. Well, I really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody that's out there listening today. If you have any questions for Jaclyn or me, just, send me an email and I'll get it to her and go to her website and all the good things and go out there and do some fun things. Have a beautiful week, everyone. Bye. Bye, Jaclyn.
All right. Thanks, Julie.